Hi everyone, it's Kiki here again today. Today I'm creating a sparkly layout using two amazing mixed media products for a very special photo. So stay tuned. So today I'm going to be working with the Liquid Text Glass Bead Gel, and I'm going to be working it through a stencil. And this is going to create a very textured page. You'll also notice that I'm not working with a 12 by 12 today. I decided that I was going to try out working with an 8.5 by 11 size layout. So now that I have the stencil covered, and it's covered quite thickly with this gel, I'm going to remove this stencil very delicately so that all the gel stays in place, doesn't move around. Just work it very gently. All the gel that's remaining on the stencil can be reused again as long as you scrape it off and put it into an airtight container. Here's the second mixed media product. And you're probably wondering, with such a textured page, how am I going to embellish that? Stay till the end and I'll show you the embellishment that I use and how I adhere them. That's another special tip for you. Here I'm working with the Lindy's Magicals. These are amazing watercolor paints that come in powder format, and they have a shine and a shimmer like no other paint that I've ever seen that comes in a powder like this. So that's what I'm going to be using. If you want to learn more of these great techniques and you want to create great layouts like this one, follow my process and subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell to get a notification of all of my next process layout tutorials. So I'm going to work with a variety of colors here. I'm going to add some water, and you'll see that it activates the powders. And I'm working with a variety of colors. All of the colors will be listed down below in the description box. So you'll see this page with the stencils. I've let it dry. You must let it dry before you start working with it. So I'm going to be starting to watercolor the paper. I'm using very varied colors of pink here. Some very light and some very vibrant. And I'm just going to get a base down of these colors. If you don't like where it's sitting, you do have a little bit of time. If you spray some water, you can move that color a little bit more. Or you can always use a paper towel to lift the color if you find that there's too much there. So I have this photo that my husband and I got taken of us on our cruise in January. And I thought, oh, I want to do something really special for this layout. And I'm not even honestly certain whether or not it's going to go into a scrapbook or whether I'm going to frame it. It does end up being a very chunky page, as you can see from the beginning, but it has so much shine and sparkle, so I'm actually thinking that I'm going to actually frame this. It was a professional photo that we got taken at a restaurant for our pre-anniversary dinner. We were sort of on the cruise to celebrate our anniversary a little early, so we went to the steakhouse, and it was such a nice shot. So I knew that I wanted to frame that photo anyhow, and the original photo is 8 by 10, but I don't think I want an 8 by 10 on my wall. Whereas this in a nice shadow box, I think would look probably pretty good. So I might do that. Have you ever taken any of your layouts and framed them in the past? Or done any sort of off the page projects with scrapbooking in particular? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it, and I'd love to be linked up to them. So I'm just spreading a little bit more of the mixed media here, the magicals, around the page. Just gonna do some final touch-ups just to see how I like it. Once you have the magicals are on the page, you do want to make sure that you let all of the watercolors dry before you move on to embellishing it. So here's the photo that I was talking about, and you'll see that I found that the colors worked really well with this. There's a little bit of green in my top, so I wanted to have some green kind of as a color accent. And I thought I pulled out that journaling card from Prima, but I wasn't sure if I was going to use it as a photo mat or whether I was going to use it for journaling. And in the end, I decided not to use it. But for the photo itself, you'll see that there's that white spot in the sort of center of the page. There is no gel there, so no glass bead gel. So I'm going to be using Zap Dots for this picture to prop it up off the gel, but make sure that it's adhered to the page very well. And that's pretty much the only time you're going to see me using any kind of foam dots in this. I've also decided that I'm not going to mat the photo. I didn't want to kind of try to figure out what color from the background that I wanted to be kind of the focus. So I left the photo unmatted, and I think it was probably a better idea anyhow, just because matting the photo on top of this glass bead gel would have been a little complicated. Now, how do I embellish with all this glass bead gel? Because it stands off the page quite a bit. You'll see it in the beginning. You saw it, a little preview of it, but you'll actually see exactly how far this glass bead gel sits off the page at the end when I show you the close-ups. So my tip for you here is that if you're using with a very rough textured surface and it's got some dimension of its own, I'm talking about the background here, don't use a foam tape or a foam adhesive. The reason for that is that the foam adhesives and the foam tape tend to be pretty stiff. And so you're only going to actually connect that adhesive with part of the background because it's a little more rigid. Whereas using a clear glue, that like I'm using here on this page, I'm using the Helmar's 450 quick dry glue. It's a little bit thicker, it dries clear, so that's an advantage there. But the advantage is that when you're using a thicker clear glue like the Helmar's, you're going to actually spread that glue and adhere to a variety of surfaces because it's liquid. So because it has a little bit more thickness to it than the Scotch, it's going to grab all of the surfaces that it comes in contact with. So I'm going to get a really good adhesion from that glue, especially when I'm working with this texture on the page. It works really well with the glass bead gel. It will also work really well on top of very thick texture paste if you decide to use that. So that's just a little tip for you. So I'm playing around with some Prima Flowers. I had some canvas pieces. I don't know if you remember these. Again, I'm bashing my stash here. So I had these canvas resists that Prima came out with several years ago. And when you spray them, they actually resist. There's like sort of a little bit of a plastic in the canvas that resists the paint or the spray that you decide to use. And so it gives you kind of a two-tone kind of effect on the flowers. So it's kind of neat. So for those, I did use some of my Lindy's, my Heidi Swapp Color Shine spray. I've been saying it wrong all this time, but I finally got it right. So here I'm putting down, I do have some acrylic hearts that you'll see. Those are also a Heidi Swapp product. And so that's another advantage for the glue, because the glue underneath those acrylic pieces is going to dry clear. And so it will have a double effect. Number one, it'll be popped up off of that gel, but it will also adhere, and it will dry clear. So there's a good reason to have a multitude of adhesives in your stash. Not only like a nice white glue, thinner glue like a Tombow or the Scotch Quick Dry that I use, the Helmar 450 for example, or some people use like the Aleene's tacky glue, I guess it's called. I don't know how sturdy that is. I haven't tried it yet. I've ordered some. I'm going to be playing with it in the future, but that foam dots, foam tape, the one thing that your project will always hinge on is that you want it to last, and so you want that adhesion there. So So that's why I've used, you'll see me swapping in and out from like foam tape to clear gel glue to, or thicker glue like a Helmar to the Scotch. They all have their own uses. So here I've got a sticker sheet that I got from my scrapbook cards and scrapbook cards today, the little sampler pack. So I got that this month, and I've decided to use a couple of those stickers and a cutout, a die cut that I had. So yeah, all done. So these close-ups show you exactly how high that gel is off the page, quite chunky. Hope you enjoyed this. Remember to subscribe to be notified of the next project.